Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome to another episode of 49 Faithfullee. We're your hosts, Miriah Lee and Teran Lewis. And tonight we're joined by a very special guest, Tony from Nothing But Niners. What's up? What's up? How you guys doing?
What's
49ers
going
come away with the victory over the Rams, so that's always a plus. 31-14, feeling good. What's up? What's up?
Go ahead, Tony.
None. Thanks for having me on. I'll be on with you guys for a little bit. I got to jump on Nothing But Niners. I'm just waiting to see what time we're going to roll with Mike. But yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. And it was an impressive win today. You know, they came out the gate in the first half, struggled a little bit, got the ball in the second coming out at halftime. Didn't look exactly perfect, and they finished very strong. You see the adjustments on defense, you see the adjustments on offense, and I just think that in the second half they played a pretty damn good game in the second half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. First and foremost, I'm gonna give Jimmy his props. He went 21 for 25. So and that's a heck of a percentage. This is something that we've all kind of been wanting, and you hit the nail on the head, Tony. Like the under 30 passes is what is needed. For Jimmy, because it's like as soon as he gets over that 30 mark is when the mistakes come. The interceptions or whatever the case may be. So the 21 for 25 is excellent. CMC, I mean, what a great pickup. I mean, that guy, I think there was only three running backs since 1970 to throw a touchdown, to have a receiving and a rushing. And I think it was Walter Payton and LaDainian Tomlinson. So you got those two with CMC. So only three running backs have done that over the past like 50 years, which is amazing. So, I thought he acclimated into this offense, and I thought it wasn't going to start till after the bye week is when he was going to get in this groove. But that just goes to show you when you have an amazing player like that, an elite player, it doesn't take them long to adjust to a new offense and show their worth. CMC did an amazing job. Like you said, Tony, adjustments were made on both sides. We seen Kyle make his adjustments. We saw um D'Amico Ryans. I mean, people were already, dogging D'Amico, and rightfully so. I guess you can say, the last couple games he was terrible, but as we know, a good coach will adjust and it won't take him as long. So for him to adjust against these Rams, after his third game, after playing two bad games, just shows how good D'Amico is. I mean, he shut down Cooper Cup that second half, and I was sitting there getting pissed off because I'm just like, man, I'm in. When I played football back in my day, I mean, I don't know if it's a lost art, but I know it's a passing league, so a little bit different. But jamming a receiver at the line of scrimmage used to be something that was done every single play because it messes up timing, it messes up, the flow of the game, stuff like that. So the fact that I see Cooper Cup just running free on every snap, I'm like, why is this happening? Like he should. That's one guy that you should try to knock him off his routes and mess up the timing and stuff. The fact that he was just running free was this it was frustrating. But then when D'Amico comes in the second half, I think Cooper caught maybe one ball. In the second half, he didn't do much. So kudos to D'Amico, kudos to Kyle for their adjustments, and like I said, Jimmy played well. I mean, and this is without Kyle Juszczyk and Debo Samuel playing today, which is great. So I would love to see what this offense is going to look at come like week 11, something like that, when
Yeah.
everybody's probably healthy and stuff like that. So yeah, great game all around.
Real quick, let's say what's up to the chat. We got Bebop says, sleeping in my Jimmy G jersey tonight. Tia, Bryant, Brandon, Damien, Joel, JDLR, Melissa. Hope you guys are all doing great. Chrissy. Um, Chrissy brings up something here, the pass rush. And I know before we went live, we were talking about the defensive line, that was, one of our deepest positions, and now it's like one of our weakest. And before the game, I had text TL, and I asked him, like, what's up with Ture, because it's like we're so short on the defensive line, but yet he's continuously a healthy scratch, healthy scratch, healthy scratch. So it's like, is he in the doghouse, or like what's the deal? Like, you're telling me that he's not better than some of the guys that we have in there, like, I don't understand the situation there.
I think he sat because they brought up the kid McGill, and they felt the rotation was needed more inside because on paper you have Bosa, Ebukam, then you have
Drake Jackson.
Drake Jackson and Omenihu,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also have Kerry Hyder who can go outside. So that's 5 at that position.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you flip inside, it's Givens, Ridgeway, Hyder, Spence, and that's it. So I guess they wanted to put McGill in there to keep that rotation fresh. He got it on a couple snaps. I saw him. Listen, it's just fresh legs. You want to keep that position group fresh because they're constantly, trying to get after the quarterback and get into the backfield. But like teams to figure out how to slow this front. Just real quick on it before we move on is you chip Nick Bosa and you just screen the shit out of them. You use their aggression against you, let them fly upfield, loop it right over their head, and you pick up a minimum of 5 yards. Quick game. If you go quick game, the ball comes out quick, and then you can't get to the quarterback. But you saw as the game went on in the second half where they really needed to drop back and wait for downfield routes to develop, Bosa got in there like this. So they really have to, I'm not going to say change their philosophy, but I think they need to rush more discipline. If they feel like they're getting in untouched, pump the brakes, just sit they call it drop your ass in that spot and you keep your eyes open, because if there's someone behind you and you're full bore upfield, you ain't catching them from behind. So they really have to work on rushing more discipline than just pinning your ears back and just going after the quarterback.
Yeah. I want to get your guys' thoughts too. So up until this point, Jeff Wilson had led this team in rushes. Leading into this week, rumors started going around that Jeff Wilson, teams were calling about him being traded and whatnot. There was speculation before the game started from some content creators like, oh, well, if he plays in this game, then he probably won't be getting traded. If he's a healthy scratch or whatnot, then most likely he'll be getting traded. Well, he, obviously played, but he only had 4 carries and 2 catches. So he touched the ball 6 times coming from leading our backfield. What are your thoughts on how, CMC had 18 carries and 8 catches? So huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Do you think Jeff Wilson stays on this team, or do you think it's still a possibility he might get traded?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I think that Kyle keeps him. I don't think he's ready to play. I mean, because to me, I think Jeff Wilson's been playing solid. He's been playing some pretty good football. So as long as he's playing solid, I don't see, him being traded. I know they said that after we got CMC, there was teams calling us, and asking about Jeff Wilson and stuff like that. But I just think that Kyle and them are probably so worried about the health of that position that they're probably going to be like, okay, he's been the one guy who's actually been pretty healthy. We don't know what Elijah Mitchell's going to look like. You don't know how long it's going to take him to get into shape or whatever the case may be. And, we all know when it comes to rookies, Kyle really doesn't like to play them much unless he necessarily has to. So Jordan Mason, he's been pretty much at the back of the bench this whole year. We don't know what TDP is going to look like. So I think he'll get kept. We'll see what happens, in the off, if the offseason if he'll end up staying with this team long term. But I think right now, because even with CMC, even though how great as he is, he still has some injury history. So I think that with that going on, I think that to be safe, that Kyle will keep him on this team full term and for the rest of the season. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I know people are going to be like, "Oh, well, we have TDP, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason. Let's just go ahead and trade him." But look, I think with the duel of a Jeff Wilson and a CMC, if you can split the carries like that, because CMC needs to be on the field at all times. He needs to be the one getting the majority of the carries. I said before, I like to use him 60-40 at receiver and at tailback because we have so many tailbacks. Like I like a combination of wide receiver of Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, and Christian McCaffrey. Then you know what I mean, and then just keep the rest of the running backs with Jeff Wilson. If the running game is struggling, then you throw in some, throw Christian McCaffrey. Like if you give him 10 snaps, 10 to 12 snaps at running back, then another 5 to 7 at receiver, wherever the case may be. Like I would love that. So yeah, so to answer your question, I don't think Jeff Wilson's going anywhere. He's like I said, he's been really the only one besides Mason because he hasn't played. But besides Jordan Mason, Jeff Wilson has been the only running back on this team that has been healthy. So What's your thoughts, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, you make valid points. If a team calls, listen, we're going to give you a 3 or a 4 for him, you got to sit there and really think about it because now clearly he's not going to be coming. The sad thing is he makes more money than McCaffrey right now. He's like, I think almost 4 million, I think, if off the top of my head, 3.5 million, 4 million. Um, he's not going to be back next year because they have their pieces in place. They invested. Now, the flip side of it is you just invested X, Y, and Z into McCaffrey. And clearly, just by having McCaffrey stand on the field and just running a quick like Texas route, angle route, or flat route out of an option route, you saw what he could do to a defense. And the minute they traded for him, we were actually live on Nothing But Niners when they traded for him. And I said, I'm telling you guys right now, just because McCaffrey's there, the key play is going to be that two-way go with Kittle in line running down the seam. And sure shit, that's what they did in this game. He broke out and then angled back in. It forced the linebacker to step up. The safety shifted, and Kittle went right down the seam, and Jimmy just hit him with it. It's that. That's why you go acquire a piece like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is not only a good running back, but he's a guy that you have to seriously game plan for. So, with that being said, you have Debo, you have Ayuk, you have Kittle, you have Juice, then you have McCaffrey. It's like a positional matchup. It's positionless football, which Kyle like continuously states. Positionless football. He wants to be able to line everybody up anywhere on the field. And then look what he does today. It's a toss. He stops, pulls up, and freaking launches it down the field with better touch than Jimmy Garoppolo. And, now that's on film. So it's just more things that make this offense tough to defend. And if Jimmy could play like the way he did today, I think this team is very hard to beat. I mean, not beat, to stop offensively because of all the players that they have. Yeah, but I mean, as far as continuously running him in between the tackles and getting him those high reps and carries, I think they want to keep a back around to try to offset that a little bit, but not take him off the field. He can be split wide with TDP in the back, Jeff Wilson in the back, Elijah Mitchell's in the back. So I do think I do think he could be expendable, but I think they're not just going to give him away for a conditional 7th-round pick. If a team calls with a serious offer of a 4 that could turn into a 3 based off of playing time and yardage and touchdown scores and stuff like that, that's something you need to consider because what we just gave up for McCaffrey. But, it's not a knock against Jeff Wilson Jr. It's not. No. I think he gives it his all. His one downside is his frame and his fumbles. And the frame, his body can only take so much pounding. So to be that secondary back, I think it's a perfect role. But if the Niners get blown away with an offer, I do think they pull the trigger. But, again, it's got to be a decent offer.
Yeah, and I agree, Tony. And I was telling Miriah on our last show, it's like, it's crazy. We talk about Kyle and you look at the all 22 and we see pretty much at least one person is open pretty much 95% of the time. So the play works. So it's like, you look at if we have a healthy McCaffrey and a healthy Debo, we mentioned, you can argue those are the top 2 offensive weapons in the league when healthy. You know what I mean? Because you can line them up all over the field and there's a mismatch pretty much everywhere, whether it's their speed, their power, whatever the case may be when it comes to whoever player we're talking about. But yeah, it could be an interesting situation. And like you mentioned, if Jimmy can just play the way he was, like, when he hit Dwelly on that that go route or whatever the case may be on to the left side, I was happy. I'm like, man, he saw it. Like that's all we need because we see stuff like that on film all the time. You see people open up on a crosser or a go route or whatever the case may be, and he's not seeing the foot arc. But the fact that as soon as he saw that corner stumble and Dwelly got past him, he threw it with no hesitation. And that's what we need going forward because all these weapons, and like you said, we had no use check, no Jennings, no Debo, and yet we still managed to put up the points that we did with all these weapons not even being on the field. So it's encouraging to see what this offense can be going forward. I'm excited to see what's going to happen after this bye week because I feel like Kyle's going to be in his bag and he's going to look at different things that he can use as far as his mismatches and stuff like that because I feel like Debo will be back after the bye week. So
Yeah, that catch by Dwelly, I love that, and I love that it was actually Dwelly on the receiving end and not Charlie Warner. Not no knock on Charlie Warner, but like we talked about before, why do you have your third string tight end or your sixth string wide receiver down there catching these passes and not a guy that has sure hands and whatnot. So it was nice that we're actually out there using Dwelly like that, and that he actually came through. What was it? Yeah, he had one catch for 56 yards, and that was the longest of his career. So that was awesome. Troy brought up something good here that I didn't even, think about as we were going through the game. And we did have a couple of guys, like C. Ward went down a couple times during the game, but, he kept coming back in and whatnot. But he says, I guess during the presser just now, Kyle Shanahan says there's no injuries to report. That's awkward, but I don't have any to report. So, the best news is that we got a win coming out of this game. The even better news is that we come out of the game with a win and healthy on top of it and going into the bye. So I think that, you can't ask for much more than that, especially the way, it seems like we were losing 3 to 4 guys a game up until this point. So to go make it through this game with no injuries, that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else you guys want to talk about?
I think we. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's good that we played such a solid game that there's not much to talk about. Like you said, we don't have to worry about any injuries. Coming out, like me and Tony had mentioned, we love that the adjustments were made at halftime. Like and on both sides, because we usually see adjustments from one side and not the other. But the fact that they both went into halftime, D'Amico and Kyle, I was like, look, this is what we need to do. And like I said, for Cooper Kupp to only get one catch, I believe, in the second half, if he even got any, I don't even think he got any, but the fact he only got one, I believe, is awesome, because we always say, take away the best player, let everybody else beat you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said before, it's like, when you sit there and you just let Cooper Kupp, I mean, when they were playing in the first half, I was looking at his release. Nobody near him. I'm like, why don't you have somebody, like, if you're gonna put Oren Burks on him? I mean, I don't agree with that, but at least Oren Burks at the line of scrimmage, he's strong enough, I believe, as a linebacker to knock him off his route, to mess up the timing a bit. You know what I mean? For the fact that you're letting this man get a free release, to me, was mind blowing. But like I said, Kyle and D'Amico, it was a bomb job that they did. I commend them. CMC, man, I'm just so excited. Like, everybody was like, "Oh man, I think we gave up too much." Yeah, I get it, because I think they're looking at the injury history. But the man is 26 years old. That's pretty young still. And the fact that we have him through contract through 2025. We have him, for pretty much 3.5 more seasons.
Yeah.
Which is great. So that means he can grow with Trey, and he can grow with Jimmy. I mean, with what's the name, with Debo Samuel and the rest of these young weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, I love everything. I think going forward, I don't know what's going to happen, but I really want to concentrate on getting that offensive line better. Mike McGlinchey is just, I don't know what's going on with him, just straight turnstile, like everybody likes to call him, but he's been playing some poor football.
Yeah, I mean, listen, McGlinchey's people stick up for him. People say he stinks. I don't see where he's good. It's continuous struggle. It's continuous. You could beat him to the edge on every play if you're the type of rusher where you have the ability to speed rush up the field, dip your shoulder, and you'll beat him every single play. And I think the Niners have a problem on their hands right now, because they're grooming this kid Burford to play the right guard spot. I don't think he's going to be a Niner next year, meaning McGlinchey. So now they have a hole at right tackle that they have to fill. I'm sure they'll try to replace him, on the cheap in-house with guys that they know and that know the system, which is smart. But, like, and people say, it always happens on big plays. I watched the game, and granted it was on my phone, but you just see him consistently, like, struggling. It's always a struggle. And my biggest thing is when you draft a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", and it's the same thing for, like, Armstead and Kinlaw. You play it with high pad level. It's hard to be that tall and play low. So it's just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. He can't anchor down versus a bull rush. So, I think it's going to be a problem, and I do think teams see something. He's not good with stunts. He bites on the inside rush all the time, and the outside guy just comes in free. You saw it today. So it's something that they're going to have to address and work through, and eventually next season make a decision on who's going to take that spot over. But, I mean, as far as the offensive line, I thought they played a solid game. One thing I don't like is the constant rotation between Brunskill and Burford. Yes, Aaron Donald is great. People think Brunskill can dominate Aaron Donald. I just don't see that. I see it more as Kyle's play calling, using Aaron Donald's aggression against him and letting him run free upfield and have that back come right underneath him with a seal block on a backside pull or something like that. So there's a lot of context to that, but let's stick with our offensive line and let them continue to gel. Stop the switching. Let them go. Let them develop. This is what you want. You're playing your young guards, your center, your tackles. Let them gel because they're going to need to be on the same page as they go into that playoff run if they're fortunate enough to win the next several games and get into a playoff spot. But based on the way they performed today, this team can make the playoffs. Yeah. But it all comes down to the most important position on the field, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jimmy Garoppolo comes out and balls out like today he did today, they're a tough team to beat. And they were missing two huge components. They're actually three huge components. Elijah Mitchell, Juice, Debo, Jennings, your third down chain mover. Like, you're missing big pieces, and he still had a successful game today.
Yeah.
And this team took off for once in the second half. Instead of like 3 points, maybe a touchdown. They took off. You saw the aggression with the play call. You saw the execution. So that's another major positive that no one's talking about. Like, Kyle stayed aggressive. He did not become passive. And this is what people wanted. Oh, why does he do this? Why does he do that? Well, he hung 31.
He did.
He hung 31 on the Rams on a team that you were behind going into the half.
Yep. And that it was funny because we were just talking about that on the last show, how Kyle was like 7-30 when trailing at halftime. You know what I mean? And then 1-30 when trailing 3 points or less in the fourth quarter. I mean, 3 points or more in the fourth quarter. So the fact that he overcame this and won is awesome. I have a question for both you and Miriah, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But the first thing I want to say, you guys been 49ers fans for a long time. Do you remember a guard tackle we used to have back in the day named Scott Grogg? You guys remember him? He was a
Say it again. You chopped up 1 second.
How about now? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're good. Maybe it's my
internet. Maybe. Do you guys remember that guard or tackle we had back in the day named Scott Grogg?
Scott Gragg, yeah, they signed him from the Giants.
6'8", that 6'8" guy. So we had him. We had Alex Boone, who was another 6'8" guy. I don't remember them having so much issues as far as like the leverage and stuff like that, like Mike McGlinchey. So do you guys think it's just an issue with McGlinchey? Because I remember you had mentioned something about him being so big and pad levels issues and stuff like that. I just think it's just him. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's just him having an issue. I think he's soft, if I'm going to be honest here. I just think he's just a soft tackle. Yeah. And then, so another thing I wanted to say, Spencer Burford, like, I remember looking at him at UTSA or whatever college he went to, little small school he went to. He can play all positions on the line except for center. Do you guys think that right now, he's playing guard out of necessity because he is a good guard? I think he's one of our best 5 offensive linemen. I think possibly that he gets that. See, right now he's playing, but I think eventually, I don't think McGlinchey is going to be here. So I agree with you, Tony. Next year, do you think that possibly Spencer Burford gets moved to right tackle, and then we find us another guard, whether it's in house in a Jalen Moore, or we go out and get one in free agency? What do you guys think about that?
Good, Miriah.
Go ahead. I wasn't paying attention.
Sorry.
At least you're honest.
The minute they drafted him, I immediately said right tackle. The guy's played right tackle, left tackle, and had success. He dominated at that level of competition. Long arms. He's got the things that you look for in an offensive lineman. He can move as well. So I immediately said right tackle. They started getting him reps inside at right guard, I guess, to get him on the field, get him up to speed with the NFL game, which, okay, is good, but they need to start committing, okay? Like, listen, we're drafting you to be our right tackle. We're drafting you to be our right guard. And the whole thing last year with Aaron Banks, oh, they're going to try him at right guard to get him on the field to play opposite of Tomlinson. No, the kid played left guard at a high level of competition at Notre Dame and played at a high rate and proved to be a very good lineman at Notre Dame. He took the year, got his body in football shape, NFL football shape, learned the offense, and now look at him now. It's what, week 7 we're in today? Week 7 or
Week
8? Week 7?
week 7, yeah.
We're in week
No,
7.
eight,
And
eight, week 8, because we're 4-4, right?
okay, week
Yeah,
8.
week 8. Yeah.
And he gave up, I believe today. I don't know if they're going to charge him with it. I think he might be charged with his first sack all year. And that says something from a guy that everyone wrote off. Like, oh, he sucks. He ain't going to do this. He ain't going to do this. No, this team knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing with these people. They draft these people. They sit them. They let them learn. And then, boom, Tomlinson's a free agent. Insert Banks. No questions asked. They did it now with Burford. Now, will Burford make the transition to right tackle? I don't know. I mean, it's an easy transition when you're playing with your right side dominant of your body. You just slide over one spot. You're responsible for more space. You know, you're kind of on that island, if you will. But, you know, watching his college film, it seems like he can do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Melissa had asked, why do you think Trent Williams is getting so many flags lately? He did get a flag today. And, you know, the penalties, I actually thought at the beginning of the game, you know, we got 3 penalties pretty quick there. And I'm like, oh, great, here we go again, you know. And then we didn't get another penalty after that. So that was good.
I think the one downside to this game today was the abundance of penalties. It's this team's got to stop shooting themselves in the foot. They did it in the whole first half. Listen, Trent Williams gets a false start. It's 5 yards. I don't give a shit about that because I'm going to tell you what's the most important thing about Trent Williams. When it's time to play, he executes. He does not let that backside down. He makes noise, and he kind of set the tone for this offensive line. I don't know if you guys caught it, but he got in this guy's face several times, and guess what? He got him to draw a penalty for a penalty to be called against the opposite against the Rams. Alshon Robinson, I think his name is. But he brings that nastiness to this offensive line, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'll take a 5-yard penalty. I don't give a shit. It usually happens early in the game. All right, you write it off, you move on. But I like what he brings to this line, and if it costs me a 5-yarder,
so be it, huh? Yeah, no, I agree with you, Tony. It's funny you bring up Aaron Banks as well because, you know, we're talking in our chat earlier on Twitter, and I was like, to me, Brandon Ayuk and Aaron Banks have been our most consistent players on offense, in my opinion. From week 1 to week 8, they've been consistent. And Aaron Banks, you're right. Like he got himself in shape. He's one of the offensive linemen who I thought would be fine. It was more that right side. But I kept saying, like, once Aaron Banks gets acclimated and he's playing next to the best left tackle in football. Once he gets acclimated and he understands the game, like you said, he got himself in shape, in NFL football shape. He's being dominant. He's worth the second round pick that we drafted him for. And I just think he's just going to get better. Like I knew I didn't think he'd be as good so quickly. You know, I had gave us a few weeks before the line had some continuity, but Aaron Banks is playing out of his mind. Like for him to be in his second year with minimal reps as a rookie and then coming in, you know, basically he's getting snaps as a rookie in his second year because he didn't play really at all last year. And the fact that he's doing so well, like I feel like him and Ayuk have been so consistent from top to bottom since week 1. So yeah, it's a big kudos to Aaron Banks, and I agree with you, Tony. This musical chairs at offensive line from Spencer Burford to Brunskill, like I'm not feeling that at all. You have to let the young man grow. I'd rather keep Spencer Burford in there, let him get his lumps because he's way more athletic. I feel like his technique is there because I agree with you, Tony. When we drafted him, I automatically thought right tackle. Like he's our right tackle. They're preparing for Mike McGlinchey to be gone, and that's where he's gonna go. So yeah, I just think right now, going into the bye, I think offensive line, if we can just gain some continuity and start playing these musical chairs, I would love that. get some people back healthy, and I think this team can make a run. Because it's funny because for weeks we're talking about this defense and historical defense. Like I think me and Miriah talked up to week 6. I think before we played Atlanta, this team had only allowed like 89 points total in 6 games, which is just unheard of. The defense was carrying us. Now I feel like this offense can finally start getting in the rhythm where if the defense does have a bad game, the offense can pull their way, and then vice versa. You know what I mean? It's not you're not gonna have a perfect game on both sides all the time. There's gonna be maybe one or two where everything's clicking, but that's a rare in the NFL. For the most part, somebody's gonna have their struggles from game in and game out. So I feel like the defense started off with some struggles, but the offense, with CMC, I feel like offense is the reason why we won this game. Offense
Yeah.
carried us in this game. So yeah, I think going forward, it's just going to be amazing. I think the key is offensive line, Jimmy playing consistent, and getting some guys back healthy on defense. Because the fact that I still don't think Tarvarius Ward is fully healthy yet. He's playing a little bit different from what I saw a couple weeks ago. So going into the bye is great, but if we can get back and we were playing today without Dre Greenlaw. We got Aziz coming back pretty soon. Armstead should be coming back soon. We're playing with 4 guys who haven't been playing for weeks. You know what I'm saying? So the fact
Yeah.
that that's going to be coming back with this defense, so I think we're all going to be good to go. Like I just pray that we continue to stay healthy. But yeah, this team has a lot to look forward to. If I think the injuries worries me the most because since 2020, this team has just had horrendous injuries. Like we've been the worst in NFL when it comes to injuries. Us and I feel like the Ravens. So yeah, I mean, a lot to look forward to. I'm excited. We needed this W big time because I think the Seahawks are beating the Giants, I believe.
They beat him.
Right now they beat them. Okay, so they beat them. So they're still first in the division because they have a game up on us. So that puts them at 5-3. Good thing
Yep.
is we're still undefeated in our division.
Which is huge.
That's huge. Yeah, the fact that we're undefeated in our division is huge. So for us to get this win because Seahawks won is huge. So we're not 2 games behind. We're only 1. Yeah, I like this team going forward. What do you think, Miriah?
Yeah. I do want to talk to you guys, get off the offensive line a little and go towards the defense because you did talk about, and obviously we know that we have a lot of guys out on our defense and shout out to Fred Warner because, for the little time that he was injured last season, whatever, like he's pretty much been like, the most consistently healthy person on this team, I feel like over the last how many years since he's been on this team. Like everybody else is always out with injuries and Fred's still out there playing away, So shout out to him for learning how to stay healthy,
Absolutely.
knowing how to take care of his body. Cause man, could you imagine if he wasn't out there, we would have had a linebacker. Like, like we already had him and this person and that person and oh God, it would have been a disaster. So shout out to him. But how do you think, obviously with our corners being out and I did notice that Jimmy Ward, he did have actual club on his hand this week. I don't know if he played much better with that on his hand, but like, do you think, like, how do you guys think the defense did overall? Obviously, we held them to 2 touchdowns. But it just seems like, I don't know if I feel like Hufanga has been missing tackles. Like, I don't know what the deal. Like, I just feel like he's been a little off since he had his concussion. And I really hope that, that's not something, like long term there because he just seems like he's like a tick, like slow, like just a tick off from where he would normally be. Like he's wrapping up and then the person's getting away or he's getting to the tackle, like going to make the tackle like 30 seconds too late and he just like claps and walks away. He does the same thing every time, he just claps and walks away. Like I don't know, like he just wasn't like that the first few games. So he just seems off to me. But how do you guys think, Lenore did, like all those guys that had to step in, obviously for our starters, and against one of the best wide receivers in the league?
I feel I noticed Hufanga in the first week of the year. He has this tendency to just in football terms, we call it you launch yourself. And what launching yourself is like you just 100% sell out and try to knock the ball carrier's legs right out from under him. It works, but then sometimes it doesn't work. And it just seems like he's that type of player where that's how he plays. That's how he tackles. He's not going to come like high, wrap you up, and throw you down. Yeah, this guy plays just like Troy Polamalu. Like I swear to God, he trains with him. He plays and tackles the same exact way. Polamalu was a little bit faster, so I think his break was able to get him to that point faster to just get that type of tackle off, where his speed isn't that fast. So if he's a smidge off, it looks like he just totally like missed, like whiffed. But it's the same technique that when you're like, holy shit, look what he just did. Wow, what a great tackle. It's the same technique. It's just the speed might be a smidge off. As far as the replacements, like, and I said this in week 1, this defense is going to go as far as the defensive line takes them. If the defensive line is on, the secondary is on. They work hand in hand. If the defensive line is not on, you see what happens in the secondary. If there's no pressure, like there was in the first half, the ball gets out. They don't have that. You know what I'm saying? It kind of makes the corner, exposes the corner. And I'm not saying the corners suck, but they play at a higher level with the better pass rush, if that makes sense. Lenore, I think Lenore had a couple nice plays, and then he had a couple, plays where he could have maybe played a little bit better technique on a receiver. That's okay. I mean, it's a learning experience. This is his second year in the pros. He's actually a starter now. I do think this defense misses Mosley big time. But, next man up mentality, it's their job to prepare these guys. And for the most part, they do look prepared. It's just, you got to get the mental side of it down. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I will tell you one thing that I'm very concerned about. I am very concerned about Ambry Thomas. Very concerned. The kid looks like he lacks confidence. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's always looking around, like looking at somebody to tell him where to go, where to line up. And he has that tendency where he plays with a deer in headlight look. Like he's like, like he it's not panic, but he's hesitant. And if you're hesitant at the NFL level as a corner, it's not a good pairing. It's not a good thing to be. I think he's to be honest with you, I think he's on the bottom of the depth chart at the corner spot. I really do. I mean, there's a point where Womack came on the field again before him because he struggled on one play. He's very grabby. I mean, listen, it's tough to play corner at the NFL level now, the way they call penalties on every play. You sneeze on a receiver, it's a flag. But I just feel he needs to be the Aaron Banks. You sit his ass down, get his ass back up, build him up physically, mentally, and you give him a run next year. He is still in the contract. He's not costing you money. But and I think that could potentially happen if Jason Verrett comes back okay. I think this is all hindering on Jason Verrett. I don't think they want to put Thomas on the field because he's very shaky. They love him for special teams. He's a good special team player. I will tell you that. But to put him in a one-on-one situation versus a Cup, versus a Robinson, versus a Lockett, versus DK, that's a scary situation for the 49ers, especially if that front line is not healthy and getting pressure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just letting you're right. It's disheartening for me because not only am I a huge fan of Ambry Thomas because I'm a Wolverines fan, so back in his days in Michigan, like seeing him play the way he is, it's just head scratching because he played a year at Michigan. He only played 1 year because he redshirted, then he played, and he sat out the year for COVID. So it really only has like a year experience.
And then he gets sick because he lost a lot of weight.
He did, yeah. He like that year of COVID, like he didn't play at all. So he came in, he did like what Michael Parsons and Jamar Chase and all them did. They set out that year because they're like, oh, but he don't have the talent, obviously, of those two. But he set out because they were talking about him as a second round pick if he would have played that year. He ended up going to the third. But yeah, it's extremely disappointing to see how he's played. And you're right. I feel like corner and wide receiver are the two positions where you have to let things go after a mistake. You get beat as a corner, you let it go. You drop a
Yeah,
ball as a receiver, you let it go and go to the next play. So Ambry Thomas, you're right. He's lacking a little bit of confidence here. And and I never forget because, like I said, he is one of my favorite players on the team. Not saying he's one of the best. I'm saying one of my favorites because I saw him because of what college he went to and seen him in college. But the fact that he was speaking so confidently as a rookie when they were asking him questions at the podium and stuff like that, and they asked him about the prices in the Bay Area. Do you remember that, Tony? Like, what
yeah,
do you think about the prices here in the Bay Area? He's like, man, he goes, they're high, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm gonna let my play take care of my pockets.
yeah.
Right now, it's not looking like that. So,
Well, I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's still
you're a
early.
Michigan fan, right?
Yeah,
So
I
you
am.
saw him at Michigan, so
Yeah,
you see why they drafted him.
yeah. He's
Because
great at
at
press. He was a
Michigan,
press man. He's man. He's a man guy. He's not zone.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
he's a talented player. It's
Yes.
just the mental hurdle from the NFL, from the college NCAA to
Yeah.
the NFL.
Yeah.
It's and the speed is different.
Yeah, and he just hasn't looked good. To go off the Hufunga thing, sorry I had to get off camera because I had to blow my nose real quick, but I didn't hear what you really said. But going off of Hufunga, I know missed tackles and have to do with people being on the field, but I feel like he's overcompensating his play a little bit because people who are not on the field, if that makes sense. So let me explain.
Oh,
So you remember
I agree.
last year? So you remember last year we were talking about Fred Warner. A lot of people were saying Fred Warner's not playing well, and this and that. When Drake Greenlaw went down, and we had those injuries, people they thought like, oh man, he was trying to do a little bit too much. I feel like it's kind of like that with Hafunga. He had weeks 1, 2, he had a healthy Armstead, Aziz, and when you play with talented people, it makes your job easier. Let's just be honest here. It makes your job easier. So I think with all these injuries, I think maybe because he's a great player, his instincts are amazing. Doesn't have the best speed, but he's always around the football. But I just think sometimes you get into your own head of like, I have to do more as a player instead of just being who you are. Like if you just would to be who you are, and not worry about Armstead not being there, Aziz not being there, Greenlaw, Emmanuel Mosley. I think that sometimes takes a toll on players because they feel like, man, I really have to step. I really got to do my thing. But it's like, no, just be you, be who you are, and your game will come to you. Don't try to worry about overcompensate your play to make up for all the injuries. If that makes sense to you guys.
No, you make very valid points.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So that's what I feel about when it comes to Hafunga, just a little bit. So yeah, but yeah, the wrapping up and stuff like that, it seems a little bit off. And Mariah makes a good point. Like after his concussion, it seemed like his play fell off a little bit. But early in the year, people were talking about him as a top 3 safety. Like, oh, Hafunga's playing out of his mind, but at the same time, the whole defense as a whole was playing great, and we didn't have as many injuries. Now that
Right.
the injury bug's starting to kick in, things have been a little bit different. So,
But I will, just to defend him, the 2 straight weeks that he was around the ball, an
mhm.
opportunity to make a play, like an interception. So I do think he is talented. There's no doubt about
Mhm.
it. He does lack the NFL speed, but he makes up with it with his
His instinct,
IQ and
yeah,
his awareness on the field
yeah, I
and his
agree.
instincts. So when you're able to have a player like that, your time speed and your game speed don't match up. They're 2 different numbers. Um, because then it comes down to a game of angles. It comes down to a game of how much time you put on film. It comes down to all that, and that clearly makes or breaks that type of player, in which it makes Hufunga who he is.
Mhm.
Very instinctive.
Yeah.
But just quick, I just want to say, you know, everyone was very, I'm taking this to the CMC. This is why Kyle went after this kid, because of what he did today on this field. If you want to draw a running back that's the best fit for the 49ers offense, it's McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He's a better fit for this offense than Terrell Davis ever was or ever could be for this offense,
Yeah, I agree.
because he has the ability to line up wherever and do anything Kyle tells him to do. And we saw it today. And the price we paid today, the price we paid to get him,
Mhm.
it's not an overpay when you have a player that can control and take over a game the way he did
Yeah.
today.
I mean, it took this man 2 weeks to do something in one game that only two other tailbacks have done in almost 50 years.
Yeah. I mean,
You
is
know
it
what I'm saying?
coincidence, right? Is it
Yeah.
coincidence that Debo's not here? And this is the first game the 49ers offense ever. I'm not going to say ever because I don't know off the top of my head. But this season has put up the numbers that they did in the second half. Is it
You're
coincidence
right.
because McCaffrey was on the field? And what he does to those defenses just by being on the field?
Yeah.
You
You're
understand what I'm
absolutely right.
saying?
Yeah.
That type of player, you pay what they paid to bring in because now it's only making it easier for Jimmy, right? I mean, you see the difference in Jimmy now
Yeah.
from pre McCaffrey to post McCaffrey. Granted, the majority of the throws are still checkdowns, but the checkdowns are more open now because everyone's bailing because everybody is running down the field
Yeah. Yeah. I
and they're
mean,
truly
just the fact
afraid of
and
speed.
and Tony, perfect play. Perfect play is when they gave that screen pass to McCaffrey. You had three defenders on the right side of the field start playing up because they were worried about him running the ball, and that opened up the whole route to touchdown throw to Brandon Ayuk. Because even his man
Yeah,
was like, "Oh crap," you know what I mean? And they
yeah,
try to go full pursuit towards McCaffrey. So like you saying, that just opens everything up. So if you got somebody and you got somebody like a Debo who can throw a football too. So if you got those two type of players, that's why I say a healthy McCaffrey and Debo, top three weapons in the NFL because they can do so much. So I feel like, just give Kyle some time. I feel like I said, I think this bye week came at the perfect time. And I remember, and Mariah, I don't know if you were one of them, but a lot of people wanted in 2017 for Kyle to draft Christian McCaffrey. Everybody was like, "Oh, Christian McCaffrey, oh, it's too high at 3." Not for the player that you get. Christian McCaffrey at 3, what he can do is not a bad deal. And I remember people getting dragged for that. And there's no way you pick a running back that high. I'm like, he's just not a running back. Got to look
you
at what
know,
he does over the field. And a lot of people were dogging that pick and saying it was too early for Christian McCaffrey. And I was like, I wouldn't mind it. You know what I mean? And obviously, we went with Solomon Thomas. That didn't work out, but I guarantee you, if you picked him at 3 and he did the stuff he did, where he was like offensive MVP and stuff like that, there wouldn't have been no chatter at all about how high we picked him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, it's funny that you brought up the points in the second half without Debo, because I was thinking earlier, like, if you would have told me this team would have put up 31 points, period, without Debo, like, I would have thought you were lying, like, we
Yeah,
couldn't do this with Debo this season. So to do it
yeah,
without, supposedly our number one weapon, yeah, that shows something there.
yeah. You're
But
right,
man,
Mariah.
CMC is just, whew.
And here's the thing too, like this is really is gonna. I mean, for Kyle to be the offensive guru he is, he should be licking his chops. Because if you have yourself a healthy Debo and a healthy CMC, the possibilities of scoring and using these weapons are endless. Like it, he could probably add another 4 or 5 pages to his playbook with just CMC just coming here alone because of the opportunities he can use to create some mismatches and stuff like that. So that's why I feel like we week 8, like you said, Tony. I think by week 11, week 12. Hopefully, this is a well-oiled machine where Kyle's like, go ahead and pick your poison. Like, you do this, like you said, a healthy use check, Jawan Jennings, Ayuk. I mean, it can be nasty if everything comes together.
Just put it like this: if the Niners get healthy,
Hmm.
right, there's not one defense in this NFL that can cover this offense out of base 21 personnel and base defense.
Yeah,
There's no one that could cover this offense in personnel,
I
in
agree.
my opinion. I don't
No,
think
I
there's a linebacker in the league that can go one on one with McCaffrey. I don't. I just
yeah.
don't.
Well, what offense can you look at honestly as a whole that can say you have a top 5 wide receiver, top 3 tight end, top 5 to 3 running back, and the best fullback on the team? You can't say that about every offense in the NFL.
And
You
in
can't.
a top, I would say a top 15, another top 15 wide
Yeah,
receiver.
and Ayuk, to me, Ayuk's playing like a top 10. I mean, his numbers don't show it, but Ayuk's
Yeah,
playing like a top 10 receiver in his league because the man
yeah.
cooks everybody. You know what I mean? He cooks everybody. So the fact that we had, like you said, you can arguably say we have 2 receivers in the top 12 if you want to be correct, right? We can all agree
Mhm.
to that. If everything goes correctly, top 2 receiver, top 12, two top 12 receivers, a top 5 running back, top 3 tight end, and the best fullback in football. So, like you said, Tony, if it comes together, I don't think there's a defense that can actually handle this offense if we're clicking on all cylinders.
No,
Everybody
and
enter
he
your
can.
numbers.
Oh,
Go ahead, Tony.
Go ahead, Tony.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, enter your numbers so we can do a giveaway before we get out of here, please. Thank you. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, and Kyle could play the matchup game. He could put McCaffrey wide all the way to the left, put Debo in the slot, flex Kittle all the way to the right, and put Ayuk in the slot. You know what kind of stress you're going to put on that defense? And then motion use check out of the backfield. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
But again, it comes down to the most important position on the field. If
Yes,
he
sir.
cannot execute, it doesn't matter who you put, and it doesn't matter who calls the plays. If the quarterback cannot execute, I fight with people on Twitter all day. Everyone blames Kyle for this. Yeah. How do you blame Kyle? Right? Everyone bitched him on. We don't score nothing in the second half. Well, what the hell just happened today?
Yeah.
He gets his final piece to that offense, and what happens? Is it a coincidence that Jimmy had his best statistical game as a 49er?
Mm-hmm. And you know what else? Same thing, Tony. And I know you want to do the giveaway, Miriah. The thing about this too, and I've seen people, and I respect everybody's opinion. As long as you come with some factual stuff around it and something that makes sense, I'm okay with what you say. I don't have to agree with you. It is what it is. So I've seen people on Twitter saying like, yeah, I'm glad we had the game we had, but I like to see Jimmy do this against another opponent. I agree with that, because we know what we can do against the Rams. Like, I feel like that's one team that Jimmy comes to play against. Can you do that against the Chargers? Can you do that against Tampa Bay? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see you execute this offense other than the Los Angeles Rams all the time. You know what I'm saying? So do that consistently with everybody else. So I don't blame people saying like, I'm happy because we got the W, but can he do it against other opponents that he doesn't dominate against? You know what I'm saying? So they have every right in feeling that way, because I agree.
I agree to a point what you're saying, and I'm just going to give a little pushback, but it's not like the Rams don't have a talented defense. Like, you have Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, you have Floyd, who
Bobby
was
Wagner.
pretty impressive today, right? You have young up and coming corners.
Real quick, Floyd hadn't had a sack up until this game, and then he gets two in this freaking game. Like, making me sick.
I'm not going to say who they were. I'm not going to say who they were on. But
you don't even have to.
There's a lot of talent here, and Kyle still could attack that talent and make them look minimal. So I understand, everyone keeps saying, well, it's only the Rams. The Rams defense is talented. Don't sleep on it. Don't get it messed up, man, because they are a talented group of players. But I do think it's going to be a smoother transition for them now, especially with this bye week. The new toy is in place. The new toy just had a great week. So he has the basic knowledge. Now he's going to get down to it. He's going to learn the full arsenal of this offense. And guess what? There you go. That person just said, Cowboy Angel, Jason Verrett's coming back. And if he's healthy, if he could stay healthy and play at the level that he played before, I think this team's going to be good. But if he comes back and plays the way he did versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, the game that I went to, and he got absolutely dogged, and they pulled his ass off the field, and he went out for the rest of the year again, then that corner spot could be an issue. But I think they know, and if you see them make a move before the trade deadline to bring another body in that corner, that tells you what Jason Verrett's at.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I agree. It just makes me so sick that Mosley got hurt, because, man, just imagine us still having him there. Like, this defense would be so good.
Yes.
All right, let's draw a winner real quick. Damn, this thing is so freaking bright.
What does it say?
Let me turn. I think it works.
I actually got to jump on to another Niners.
53.
All right, Tony. Thank you for coming on with us. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
Have a good night.
All right, take care.
Man.
All right, 53 guys and
Navarro
girls,
Bowman. Let me
guys and
see here.
gals.
So I have 47. I see 87, 16. Not many numbers. Oh, 85, 23.
I think it
Yeah,
starts with
I think it's
me at 24.
okay.
So
Yeah,
47, yeah.
yeah. Damian
Damien,
Lee.
congrats. We're doing a George Kittle hollow today for his second game in a row with the touchdown. Nice to see Kittle get used that way. Not always as a blocker. He had some great blocks today too.
Yeah,
Kittle's
he
been
did.
playing lights out.
Yeah.
Like that first one game he came back from injury and then like that's all it took and like he's back to looking like George Kittle. It's nice to see.
Yeah. I'm just glad that now they're using him more as an offensive weapon and not using him as a blocker so much,
Yeah. And you would think, like, remember we all thought, like, oh, if this O line is what we think it is, and it's going to be weak, and all this, and we got all these newbies there, like George is going to have to be in there blocking so much, and really, he hasn't had to be. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Congrats, Damien.
Yeah.
Damien must be my brother from another mother. I don't know.
I know, same last name and everything.
I would guess that's his last name, but. All right, y'all.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys being in the chat.
Love you guys,
man.
I appreciate you coming back. I apologize for being mean to you. I wasn't being mean to you. I was just frustrated at everybody else that had already come before you. So I unfortunately then took it out on you. So thank you for coming back. I love you too, brother.
I appreciate you guys. We try to give you guys some good unbiased content. You know what I mean? Like, we don't, we're 49ers fans. You know what I mean? We don't pick and choose, who to criticize. If you had a good game, we'll talk about it. You have a bad game, we're going to talk about it. So I appreciate you guys sticking with us. We don't give you the let's tickle people's ears and tell them what they want to hear type commentary. You know what I mean? We're going to
We
tell
don't
you.
tickle pickles here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Neither of us tickle
and
pickles in this
and
group.
I definitely don't. So yeah, we don't tickle ears here to make people feel good. And like I said, we give you unbiased commentary because we call it like we see it. So I appreciate everybody who's stuck with us and don't get too offended. DeMarcus, I wasn't there for that show, so I apologize on my behalf from my co-host here for going in on you. But yeah, let's all love with Miriah. She's very passionate in it, and sometimes you get into heated debates. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I mean, I know this ain't football related, but I had a kind of a heated argument with some guy at work because I'm an Orlando Magic fan, and he told me in his prime James Harden was better than Tracy McGrady in his prime. So I had to go in on him with that one. So yeah, we're always not going to see eye to eye. But one thing me and Miriah will always do is keep it real with everybody on this chat. So
Yep. Melissa says Vegas may gamble, but y'all keep it legit.
absolutely. Cowboy Angel, we're not hitting up the Raiders game, but we did rent out a sports bar. So you can, I don't know if you're on Twitter or you're whatever. I don't have any other social media, but you can hit me up on Twitter or whatever the case may be, and just ask us, and I'll give you all the information. Either me or Miriah will give you the information to the sports bar here in Vegas that we rented out. It's $40 a head, so it's better than paying $800 for nosebleeds. So
Yep. And you'll have food, drinks. We're going to do some
yeah.
raffles, some giveaways. Just chill, watch the game all together. So that's your alternative. You can come kick it with us and go do that with the rest of the faithful if you can't afford or don't want to spend all that money on tickets, because unfortunately, Vegas has to put us on the New Year's game, which is crazy.
Which is crazy. And it's a morning, and it's not a morning, it's an afternoon game after New Year's Eve, which is crazy to me because people are going to be all night partying, and I wish it was a Sunday night game to keep it real. I wish they had us at 5:20 instead of 1:20 or whatever the case may be. But it is what it is, But yeah, we have, like Miriah said, we're gonna do some raffles. You get appetizers that's included in your $40, and then you get to watch the game, which to me, I don't mind seeing the game in person, but I'd rather kick it with you, fam, in one room and chit chat with you, get to know you and talk, laugh, BS a little bit, instead of sitting up in $800 seats where we're all scattered and you can't talk to nobody and you're sitting around people you don't even know. So I take
Sitting
the
around
sports bar.
Raiders fans.
Yeah, I'm just chilling in the sports book all. I'm telling the sports. I'm chilling in the sports bar with you guys all day. So yeah, just hit me and Miriah up if you want more details.
Yep. Bebop says nice, no social media at all, might take a flight. So yeah, just let us know
Let
if
us
you do
know.
come through. But yeah, we appreciate you all. We'll see you guys sometime this week. Oh yeah, we have the round table on Wednesday. So hopefully I get moves and have internet by then and can bring you guys a proper show. If not, then I'll have to do it on my phone and whatever.
Yeah, it
We'll
is what
make
it
do.
is. All
But
right,
everybody
y'all.
have a happy Halloween. If you celebrate Halloween, be safe. Don't be doing nothing I wouldn't do. Don't be being crazy out there. But everybody have a safe weekend, safe week. We appreciate you all.
All right, fam. You guys take care.